All right, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It is time for Weather Where You Are. And we're going to talk about some pretty neat things that are coming up in the next couple of months. One that happens to be on the way this Friday, as we have a few what we want to just generalize as celestial events coming up. We're talking about things with the moon and the planets and asteroids and comets, all those fun things. Or not asteroids, comets, not asteroids. That would be a completely different thing. That would be a lot of a bigger deal, wouldn't it? Anyway, so let's talk about what's happening in the weather and space world. More so, this is astronomical level that we are talking about, which if you follow me on Weekend Morning, then you know I'm a huge space nerd, really big on space, think it's super cool. Would I ever go to space? Absolutely not. I'm going to leave that to the astronauts, but it's too big and scary. And I will tell you, I took an astronomy class in college and learned about black holes, and I don't think I ever want to know if what I read about them is right. That's all I have to say about it. All right, I'm First Alert Meteorologist Courteney Jacobazzi. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. The weather, of course, is beautiful. And if we have time, we'll talk about that a little bit in case you missed your forecast with Rodney Harris a little bit earlier today. But I want to talk about something that's going to come up this Friday, May 31st. We are going to have a pretty rare event where the moon and Saturn's orbit is going to be so close that when you look up in the sky, it's going to look like they are almost touching. So normally you see Saturn off in the distance compared to where the moon is sitting in the sky. But coming up this Friday, it's going to align just right where Saturn is almost going to look like it is touching the moon. You'll see Saturn glowing really big. And this, again, is going to be on Friday, May 31st. So let's talk about how you can view this celestial event happening Friday in the morning, particularly. That's the best time to see it. When to watch is, again, Friday, May 31st. That's this Friday. And you want to look southeast. So look in the southeast direction just before dawn. So, of course, dawn around the sunrise time. Sunrise on Friday here in North Georgia will be around 6:30. So around 6:20, which is probably when a lot of you are going to be kind of up and at it, getting ready for your day. Maybe not the kids, because I know they're on summer break, but parents, maybe it's something that you want to wake the kids up for and get their day started off right to see something pretty neat. Especially if you have a telescope, you don't need a telescope, but of course with anything, when you're talking about looking at constellations, looking at planets, looking at the moon even, it always looks better with a telescope. So if you have one, this will be a really neat event to check out, but no telescope is needed. You'll still be able to see it just fine. Again, this is going to be when we go right before sunrise, so when we have that kind of dusk, that dawn, well, I should say dawn, when the sun is starting to come up above the horizon, you can still see the moon in the sky. That's going to illuminate everything a little bit better. So just before 6:30 in the morning, go take a peek outside if you are up and at it on Friday, May 31st. Now, that's not the only thing. This is my personal favorite one. They're calling it a planet parade because you're going to be able to see essentially a parade of planets in the sky. And this is going to be in June, so we have to wait a little bit longer for that. This is on June 3rd, where you're going to be able to see 6 different planets. You'll be able to see Mercury, Mars, Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Jupiter. So that'll be really neat. If you have a telescope, I think this will be something super cool to check out. And I didn't look into exactly how rare this is, but yeah, the best viewing time will be 9 p.m. to midnight around June 3rd. So if you have your phone out, if you have a calendar next to you, mark it down in your calendar if this is something you're interested in. I think it'd be really neat to be able to see all these planets just kind of floating around in the sky as we head into the month of June, just in time for a great summer night. Hopefully the forecast will be good enough. Now, I did read that the forecast, the skies have to be very clear for you to see all of them. Some will be brighter than others. Venus is usually super bright in the sky. That's not necessarily one of them that's going to be particularly bright that night, but Mercury also usually pretty bright because it's a little closer to us here. But a really, really cool event coming up on June 3rd. Now, let's talk about something that is honestly just spectacular to see. I have seen on social media some really wonderful videos out of places like Belgium and Puerto Rico. I mean, like places that are just obviously well far from home, but the more desolate of an area you are, the better you have to see this. Of course, naturally, you know good and well if you've ever been up to the mountains or more rural part of the country, rural part of the state, and you look up, you can see every single star in the sky. I lived a little further south of here 2 years ago now, and I lived in the middle of a pecan orchard, if that gives you how rural of a town I lived in. And I just remember I'd walk outside and look up, and it looked like the sky was just right in my face because it was just so rural that there were very little street lights to dim the lights of the stars. So it's best that you look at it's the Perseid meteor shower, Perseid, tomato, as we head into August. So just about every August, we usually have this occur. It's kind of a cyclical event, but nonetheless, again, something to mark on your calendar. Want to get you excited about it. This is one of the most spectacular meteor showers that we do have across or throughout the year, I should say, because there's just simply the most that scatter across the sky. But you do see this event the best if you are in a more rural area where there's not as many street lights to kind of dim everything. But essentially, you want to move away from the city lights, look more towards the northern sky, and you could see 50 to 75 meteors per hour. That's typically what this averages out, which is why this is such a really wonderful show. It's kind of like space's fireworks, right? And so particles are essentially released from the Swift-Tuttle comet. So, of course, scientists, astronomers, astronauts at NASA, they study all kinds of different comets and all of our planets in our solar system and different potential galaxies out there. I mean, they are doing really cool research all the time. And so now we've gotten to the point with all of the satellites that are out there and the rovers that they've sent out and just missions that they've done that they can kind of figure out what comet essentially creates this meteor shower, and almost like we can detect, things like El Nino and La Nina and different events that happen yearly or biannually when it comes to the case of El Nino and La Nina. Hello. It's 2 to 4 years. Typically, you get that shift. This year, it's a little wacky that El Nino shifted back to La Nina so quickly, but that's a topic for another day. But now scientists have gotten to the point where they have done enough research where they can kind of detect what comet these are coming from and when that comet essentially moves back into our inner atmosphere in order to essentially break apart and release these particles that we see here on Earth as meteors. So essentially what happens is this breaks off and they go into space and they're moving super, super fast and they come into our atmosphere, which helps slow them down. So that friction kind of creates that bright light, and we see them as meteors, which is super cool. So essentially, again, particles released from the Swift-Tuttle comet, they enter into our inner atmosphere. That's expected again on August 12th to the 13th. That's when at least it peaks. It does go on for a longer period of time, but that's when the peak is. At least that's what's forecast right now. And the reason that it's called the Perseid meteor shower is due to its radiant, which is essentially where the focal point for all of the meteors originates, which again kind of tells us to tell you to look to the northern sky. That's where its, I guess, focal point is. That's the best way to put it. That's what a radiant is. And so the radiant is close to the Perseus constellation. So any of you who are into the constellations, Big Dipper, Little Dipper, Orion's Belt, all those fun things, typically the radiant is close to that Perseus constellation. So that's, again, something to look forward to as we head into the month of August. We have something coming up in May, another coming up in June, being the parade planet that I just think is super cool, and then the Perseid meteor shower August 12th to the 13th. So plenty to look forward to as we head into these summer months. So you'll want to just have your telescopes ready if you've got one. If not, no need. Again, it will be bright enough when it comes to this Friday's event, the Parade Planet event, and you can see meteors with the naked eye as well. So maybe something that when you're thinking about summer break for the kids, I think the kids might even be back in school in August at that point, right? August 12th. But nonetheless, maybe a thing you want to mark on your calendar so that you could say, hey, this night we're going to pitch out a blanket in the backyard and take a look up at the sky, maybe on a Friday, or what date is actually August 12th and 13th when it peaks, because that would be important, wouldn't it? Again, this meteor shower goes on longer than those 2 days. That's just when it peaks. But let's take a look at when exactly August 12th, 13th is a Monday or Tuesday. But what a way to start a week, right? You can be outside and just take a look up at the sky later at night when everything is super, super dark. So obviously it has to be later than sunset. At that time of year, the sunset's still pretty late. So you would have to stay up past a lot of kids' bedtime to see it, because you have to wait till the sky gets really dark in order to see something like that. And if you can, again, either if you live in the rural area, great. You have a great view already. No need to travel anywhere. But it'd probably be super cool to head to the mountains and take a look up at the sky where you just feel closer to the night sky when you're up in the higher elevations. So that's, again, something to put on your calendar and take a look up at the sky for. But this week we do have the moon and Saturn, a pretty rare event when their orbits get super close to each other, so they almost look like they're touching. That is on Friday, so something to look forward to, and you'll want to look just before the sun rises, so just before 6:30 for that. If anything else neat comes up on our calendar, we'll let you know. But in the meantime, personally, I nerd out about these kinds of things, so wanted to share some upcoming dates with you. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy the beautiful weather right here on Earth, because it's going to be beautiful. Lots of sunshine today and 80s, low humidity. That low humidity, just in case you missed Rodney's forecast, going to stick around through the end of the week. Definitely a treat for us. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for Weather Where You Are. We do this again every day at 11:30. Usually it's with First Alert Meteorologist Ella Dorsey, but she's getting ready for our noon show. So be sure to tune in for that as well, and we'll catch you here next time.